Actually, the Jewish definition of meat is not complicated at all. It's other things that get added in rabbinically that become complicated. So meat is meat, right? You know, cows, sheep, goat.
I would also consider poultry in the meat category.
Oh, so poultry, interestingly enough, originally was not meat at all.
Right.
The rabbis added it in because what poultry is like a cross between. I mean, what is it? It's not really an animal, and sometimes it's not so much a bird either.
Well, but birds are animals.
I'm talking
by our
about
modern definition.
I'm talking about, you know, like, I mean, I don't know about you, but for me, there's definitely a rather noticeable difference between, let's say, a cow and a pigeon.
Yeah, but there's a notable difference between a cow and a camel.
You're being remarkably pedantic this morning. I'm talking about animal-like figures, right? Animal crackers, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Animal-like figures as opposed to birds, which are, you know, they're not animals. I mean, halachically they're not animals anyway.
I recognize that Judaism makes a distinction, and I'm still flabbergasted by that distinction.
Only because you've been brought up in a society where poultry and animals seem to go together. That's the only reason.
Well, I don't know. Animals is basically every living thing in the world that aren't plants, you know, like
Or fungi, or Monera, or Protista.
Yeah. So, but you know, like
in terms of
birds, fish, everything.
Right.
They're animals, you know.
It's a fish are not anything.
What do you mean?
Halachically,
Well,
fish are, first of all, they're parv. They're not meaty.
right, but
They don't require shechita. They don't require being slaughtered.
Right. Well, you have to kill them though.
No, ritually slaughtered. Obviously, unless you're eating sushi, these things have to be dead. The reason that the rabbis made poultry meat, to give it a meat classification, is because there are all kinds of poultry that really are very meat-like. So turkey, parts of turkey. Well, emu's not kosher.
I just had this conversation the other day. I thought it was. Because it was all. Because it is a bird, right? All birds are kosher except the carrion birds, and they name them specifically. I thought that's what. Didn't we do that in this class?
No.
They named the birds that are kosher, right?
No, they named the birds that are
The
not.
ostrich is defined as being not kosher in the Torah, and all ostrich family. The Gemara says anything that comes out of something which is unkosher is unkosher. That's where the.
What about bees?
That's where the whole thing. I was just about. That's where the whole thing about honey comes from.
We don't need bees, but we eat honey.
So the Gemara's got a whole thing over there about honey, how honey is made, the process of honey, that it's made. The bee takes the pollen, and it's all being done. It's being done in an external part.
Yeah, but there's some substances coming from bees that are.
Oh, you know, queen bee honey is not kosher.
Why?
Because that's something which comes from inside of the queen bee. What's it
So
called?
royal
Royal
jelly.
honey. Sorry, royal jelly, whatever it's called. I'm sorry, yeah. That's different from honey.
I don't know that much about honey to keep talking about it.
Yeah, but the bees have to ingest it, the pollen in the first place.
I tell you, I don't know enough about it to be able to explain it. But the Gemara in Chulin definitely it asks the same question, right? It says, "Akol yotzim min atame tame." Anything that comes out of something impure is impure. Akol yotzim min atah. Anything that comes out of something pure is pure. And then the Gemara itself asks, "How can you eat honey?" And the Gemara explains this idea of the bee, the way that the bee manufactures honey is not the same as something else. We can take a look at it, take a look at the details, and see exactly how it works itself out. I saw the most incredible idea. You know, the land of Israel is called the land of milk and honey. That's one of its biblical designations, right? It's actually mentioned a few times from the book of Shmos onwards, from the book of Exodus onwards, that it's described as being the land of milk and honey. And so the question, why milk and honey? So the Chidush Arim, who's one of the great Hasidic Rebbes, the first Rebbe from Gur, he explains like this: milk and honey are two substances which, on face value, should not be kosher. honey because of the problem of how it's manufactured. Anything that comes out of something impure is impure. And milk, because the origins of milk is blood. And inside of the process that the animal turns it into milk, and then it comes out of the animal. So really, we're not supposed to be drinking blood. So the Gemara says that, but again, it's not really blood; it's milk, and there's a whole deal over there.
Babies have to drink milk from their mothers. So.
Milk from their mothers,
but
very
human
good.
milk is not milk.
Human milk is not milk. It's parav. It's not considered to be dairy. Eat human flesh? No, you can't eat human flesh unless there's a reason why you have to.
Yes,
Interestingly enough, the reason why you can't eat human flesh is not because it's not kosher.
Because
That's better, but because it's disgusting.
Yeah.
No, the idea, the concept. I've never eaten this stuff. I'm like, hey, it's disgusting. Unless you put a little bit of mayo on it, and
So is
some grilled onions as well, just to let it go down a little bit smoother. Which means eating human flesh is something which in the Western world is disgusting.
Right.
Again, cannibalistic tribes in the jungles somewhere.
Papua New Guinea.
By them, obviously, it's not particularly disgusting at all. That's a
Right.
famous joke
They
about
do-
the two
they do
cannibals,
it
where
to
one
eat.
says to the other one, "I don't like my mother-in-law," so the other one says, "So just eat the vegetables." Interestingly enough, that's not a concept which is terribly far away from Judaism. The Ramban Nachmanides says the reason why we don't eat blood from animals is because that's the life source of the animal, and you become what you eat. One of the reasons in Shechita, when you do ritual slaughter, is that that the blood has to be drained out, because we don't do that stuff. I know it's interesting. I'm always reminded that in England there's a delicacy, believe it or not, called black pudding.
Yeah.
Black pudding is made out of pig's blood, which is very dark, and it looks like it's
Is that
black, and it's like a
buffalo pudding as
sausage.
well?
It's good to have Jews in the world because no one else is going to eat this stuff, right? So
But just quickly about like we learn from the Akeda.
Yeah.
Akeda that what do we exactly learn from that? Are we allowed to eventually? God says no in the end. To
What, to offer up your
sacrifice.
children?
Yeah.
I've
But
often wanted to.
But the fact that is it just a challenge?
Yeah.
Or it's not has nothing.
Nothing whatsoever. A very careful analysis of the words shows that God, at no point does God say to Abraham that he should slaughter his son.
He's just
The
bring him up
inference,
there,
bring him up onto the altar,
tie
right?
him up.
And he did, so he did everything he was supposed to do, and then God says, that's it, fine, finished, right? Abraham doesn't understand it like that. Abraham understands that he's that he's got to take his kid and to slaughter him up on the altar. But that's not what God actually tells him to do. God does not want human sacrifices. I don't know how to break this to you. I should have broken it more gently. I really should have done, because I know you've got a
So
long
you've
list
done
of
that,
people
now that we
that you
know
would
that
like
it's
to offer
okay.
up. But what?
Now that we know that it's okay though, right? If we don't do it again.
If you don't do what?
Nothing.
I'm so confused right now.
We don't have to go through. It's interesting. We do not have to go through that experience of trying to show God our allegiance to Him in the way that Abraham did, because we have our spiritual DNA from Abraham, which means it's there inside of us. Human meat is not meat. If you were to nibble your nail, not your nail, maybe the side of your fingers or something, you don't have to wait 6 hours until you have a cup of coffee with some milk in it, right? Because there's nothing meaty about your flesh. Is it permissible to eat flesh according to Jewish law? No, it's not, unless there is a dimension of saving life, which means that, come down in a crash or something, or desert island or whatever it is. You can't kill somebody to do it.
Yeah, of course.
But if somebody is already dead, then you can take their flesh and you can eat it if you don't have any other alternative. Which means that the local McDonald's is so far
I'd
away.
rather just go hungry for a while and figure it out.
Yeah, okay. I mean, it's interesting, right? Because here in the Western world, we are programmed that eating human flesh is something which is absolutely disgusting.
Has that happened in the past? Is there historical examples of that in Judaism?
I don't know. I'm sure there probably are.
The Masada.
Masada was the opposite. They killed themselves not because they didn't have enough.
Right.
Oh, you know what? Yes, there are. I'm sorry. The destruction of the temple, the first temple, it says that the famine was so bad that one of the most terrible things that happened over there was that mothers ate the flesh of their dead children because there was nothing else to eat.
Yeah.
That's
I don't know. I mean, it sucks. It's the most awful I mean, how do you wrap your mind around something like that? How far does somebody have to get to when they're prepared to do something like that? I mean, it's awful, absolutely awful. Gosh. But anyway, poultry's pretty interesting. Poultry in its Torah designation is parav. It's not dairy and it's not milky. I'll try that again, even though absolutely nobody made a comment or blinked or anything. But it's not dairy and it's not meaty. It's not dairy and it's not milky, for sure.
Yeah, it really upsets me. I'm glad you guys are talking about this. I still don't understand why. Is it just because of like the connection?
Yeah, it's a rabbinical connection. That the Gemara says like this: the rabbis did it because poultry requires. There are certain things about poultry that are very similar to meat. So, for example, it requires shechita, it requires ritual slaughtering. Certain parts of poultry are very. No, not at all. That's why fish are not considered to be meat. The real question over here is not why don't we slaughter fish. The real question over here is why do we slaughter chicken?
Okay, then why do we slaughter chicken?
There are certain things that are just so similar to meat. You know, have you ever eaten red turkey meat?
The turkey isn't even is turkey in the Torah?
Turkey.
Is it
It's
red
poultry.
turkey
It's family.
meat, or is it red
No, but it's
turkey meat?
chicken family. So you were saying that by
Is it red
extension,
turkey?
anything that's in the same
No, I would
animal.
consider
Like the name of the bird is
the
red
Oh
turkey.
no, the red meat, the dark meat from the
Okay, yeah.
from the turkey, which is you get turkey roll over here,
I know.
and turkey is fascinating. You should know that. Absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, but it's almost exactly the same. I don't see that as like the bridge between.
It's not a bridge. It's not. You have to understand that none of this is a bridge. Similarities. That's all.
So it's really it's a halachic.
The rabbis came along. They said, okay, this is what we're going to do to make sure that there's no misunderstandings anywhere.
Yeah, 'cause
We're going to make a stringency over here, and we're
What if
going
you
to
just
turn
said you
poultry into meat.
Why don't you separate? I mean, what I would have done is say, why don't you create a new category and separate that from dairy and from meat, so that you can eat it.
But what new category are you going to make? That poultry can't be eaten with meat and it can't be eaten with milk either.
It can be eaten with dairy, and it can be eaten with meat.
Oh, so that's what it was originally. According to Torah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's what's called parav. It's neither this nor that.
You're saying it's because it's so similar that people will come along and say accidentally pull out a beef instead of a turkey or whatever, red turkey meat, and eat that instead, thinking that it's red turkey.
A person, yeah.
And put on cheese on it and really break.
I don't know.
Kashrut,
I can taste the difference between beef and meat.
Yeah, but
see
that
the
point
difference.
Here,
Like,
but I'll
unless
tell you
it's
something.
like
I'll tell you something over here, right? Because meat production over here is very different from in America. Meat production in America is something. I mean, American meat is.
Don't get me started.
I'm not talking about how it gets onto your plate, right? I'm just talking about the quality of what gets onto your plate.
It's a lot better here, I take it.
Yes.
Huh?
So it's a lot better here.
I don't know. It's very different. Meat tastes very different over here than it does over there. It's got a lot to do with how they're fed. Anyway, but just by poultry, it's a stringency. We're stuck with it. It's a problem. I remember as a kid there was a fellow called Bernard Matthews who had not Jewish and not kosher, but he had an enormous turkey production, and his turkeys arrived at the supermarkets already basted in butter, ready to be put into the oven and finished off in there. And he had these scintillating adverts. They were like mouth-watering, like these turkeys coming out of the oven, and the skin all around it has been crispened up with butter, and it was always like it was mouth-watering. It looked mouth-wateringly good. And the Gemara says that we should not say that I bet kosher food, but non-kosher food is disgusting, right? Ugh. But rather we should say non-kosher food is delicious, I'm sure, but I can't eat it. And that was for me. That was like living the Gemara. When these pictures of these turkeys came out of the oven on the television, it was like, wow, they were just the turkey adverts. Yes.
I'd sometimes just record TV for the.
No, I mean, obviously I would have to watch the bits in between because I didn't quite know when the commercials were going to happen. But my real concern was about Birkat HaMazon, benching. We'll learn one of those as well. That if a person did not have any kavanah, and that's difficult to translate the word kavanah, but kavanah is intent, concentration. What did you say? Soul content, whatever. Something from inside of you. According to some authorities, if you had no intention whatsoever when you benched, you've got to bench again.
Oh, yeah.
Now, this is like, again, there are authorities that don't say that. There are authorities that say that if you've said it, you've said it, right? But there are some that say if you don't have intention, then you need to say it again. And it's an Indian, it really is, because very often when you're beginning your path down Judaism, so the idea of benching and not being aware of the fact that you're benching and not having some kind of intention when you bench is pretty wild, because benching takes a long time, and it's like something that you're very, very much aware of. But as a person becomes more familiar with it, like with most things, we have to battle every day with the concept of what's called regilut. Regilut comes from the word ragil, which means just doing things by rote, without really thinking very much about it. That's something which all of us have to battle, in every dimension of our lives. Actually, we have to battle in trying to autopilot, right? Which is it's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing to go through a day, never mind through life, but it's a terrible thing to go through a day on autopilot without, so where did you go? I don't have a clue. I just got there, and that's pretty sad. It really is. And benching is, that's really why the Mishnah Berurah says that the best way to bench is you should use a bencher, use something to read out of, use a siddur. Because that way, if you've got something, you're focused on it. If you're focused on it, then hopefully you'll be thinking about what you're saying. If you're doing it by rote, the thing that I do is like this. When I bench, I do try very hard to always use a bencher, right? To use something to read out of. But if I don't, if I'm going to bench by heart for whatever the reason, then I normally sing the benching. I don't, when you're taught to bench when you're a kid. So it always comes together with a tune, right? The whole benching's got like a tune that goes through it, and you sing each paragraph. And I do it like that because that way it just really keeps me focused. I don't have a book to look into. Then at least if I'm singing it, then I'm concentrating on what it is that I'm saying. And I don't know. Sometimes I think to myself that maybe we should be singing benching every time we bench anyway. Actually, don't know. I don't know. I really don't. But we do have to concentrate on what we're doing. That's for sure, right? So whether it's in your work day, whatever it is that whatever your chosen profession is, or whether it's in your religious life, or whether it's in your emotional life as well, not to just take things for granted and to not give any thought to the people around you who you are supposed to love and care for and